Yeah, it's a false ledger. So when you asked why is the emergent complex behavior built on theft, it's essentially the only reason that prices don't fall is because we vote for a system that says no matter what, make them rise, right? A false
Yeah.
ledger, and no matter who you are on top of that system, it's this theater on top of that system. So once you understand that, and you realize and this is hard to hear, but it's true, right? Most of the people that are kind of using that power, fame, fortune, or power, based on theft, without calling it out, it doesn't actually matter if it's Elon Musk on one side or Elizabeth Warren on the same other side. It's exactly the same thing. They're appealing to their base, how smart they are and how great they are going to save them from a position of theft that enriches them. And unless you're going to call that out, and unless you're going to call out the base problem, then for me, I've just kind of tuned out. I've just because it's impossible to solve from that system.
Yeah. Now, some people would say, Jeff, that means you're in a cult and that you're just ignoring the world and that you don't know what you're talking about, or whatever, with absolute statements like that. So when you say something like that, that it is inherently theft, could you emphasize how that's the case and
Sure.
how because I think a lot of people use inflation theft as a political jargon tool, and I think what's different about what you and folks like you emphasize is that it's literally theft. Like it can't not be theft. So could you
Yeah. Yeah, so now, and that's why you have to think kind of at a different level and not let the theft grab you or grab it or use it as a political tool. What you have to think about it is, what I try to do is ask a simple question. It's easier for people to see or explain it to themselves when you ask a question. And if you ask what rate of inflation is required, right? Or if you ask, is inflation theft, right? You don't have a vote for it, right? No, in a democratic society, you don't vote for inflation. So who gets to decide how much money is being manipulated? And why wouldn't they tell you exactly what it's going to look like based on that? Who wins, who loses? Because inflation is the same as the other side of the coin as wage deflation. So if you know it's the same thing, and so some people win. If you have more assets, you win, and if you have more of your money in wages or productivity or savings, then you lose. Then you can see it's just a theft because some people get to decide how much should we change the ledger. And you would see this if the numbers weren't as big. So if let's say there's 8 billion people in the world and there's 8 billion monetary units, and this trick was harder because there's only 8 billion monetary units. If you had one of those monetary units, and I had half of one, right? Somebody else had two, and all of a sudden one day there were 16 billion monetary units. If your two didn't go to four, you lost,
Yeah.
right? Or if somebody else's, or if your one didn't go to two, you lost. But if your one went to 1.75, you might think I'm winning,
Yeah.
right?
Because
And
you have
if
more now than you used to. Yeah.
exactly, because you're measuring through a ledger that's being changed, and it's just made up to be able to, and it's being made up to essentially keep you on a loop of more and more jobs for less and less wages, to be able to grow forever from a system of manipulation. It's so ludicrous, but the numbers are so big. Now instead of saying 8 billion monetary units, we're talking trillions. I just have people on the show just go and Google a million versus a billion versus a trillion, and just get a picture in your mind of what that looks like, with just an image search on Google, and you'll see how it breaks your brain, right? And now talk about $400 trillion. You talk about the amount of stimulus that's coming in that you have no idea. It's just a faulty ledger. So that faulty ledger is just theft. I wish it wasn't, but it is. And you have no vote in it.
I agree, and I think in addition to that, it's not just that we have a unit bias of trying to figure out of what something's conversion rate is because these numbers are so big it's hard for us to conceive. But I think an additional problem that our brains have is that we think in linear terms and not
Yep.
logarithmic terms. So, like for example, gas prices are really popular and controversial right now, and a gallon of gas, is what, $3-4 now, whereas 100 years ago it was a nickel, a dime, quarter, whatever it was. And I think most people look at that change and they think it went from 25 cents to $4. So maybe in a few decades it'll be $8. Whereas they don't realize it's the price is not going to double. The price has gone up by a factor of 20. And so if it's gone from a quarter to $4, well, that same series of orders of magnitude, that same rate of growth in the future is not just a mere doubling. It's a logarithmic trend. It's not an exponential one.
Yeah, and that's what I called out in my book. And in you had an exponential trend of technology, and that it had to be matched by an exponential trend in monetary easing or printing money. Otherwise, the entire system collapsed because the debt was already insolvent. And so you could, whether it was COVID, whether it's something else, whether it's, you can guarantee the money has to come in, right?
Yeah.
And it has to fill that hole. Ironically, I think people have it backwards. The technology was driving first, and the offset in how much easing is to try to stop that, or to try to delay the inevitable, and is creating a worse and worse outcomes for everyone on this planet, or most people on this planet. Some people are enriched by it.
Yeah. One question I've had from other people when they've been trying to understand your thesis and your ideas of central banking versus technology is people are trying to understand, why is it so binary? Why is it that we cannot have this idea of theft and central banking and technology being deflationary? Why can they not coexist? People can buy the idea of it being theft, but why does one inherently make the other unsustainable to where they both can't survive?
So a credit-based system gets more expensive to pay the debt back with deflation. So if the debt is already insolvent and you allow deflation to happen, the entire thing is based on counterparty risk, right? And my house falls in price, or I lose my job and my house falls in price, and I can't pay back the loan at the bank. And times tens of millions of people doing that, and then the banks can't pay their loan to another bank. The whole thing is based on that all around the world. So if you allow deflation broadly to happen from the existing monetary system, it collapses. In fact, the same reason is why central banks never can remain independent over time. Because if you imagine that happening, like just imagine what's happening right now, and if the U.S. keeps tightening, you will see deflation. But you won't see the type of deflation I'm talking about. You will see eventually kind of credit collapse type of inflation, which will cause them to amp up printing of money.
Thank you so much for watching my content and being a supporter of mine. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun for me to do, and it's really meaningful to know that so many people are enjoying my content and learning about Bitcoin. I think it's so important for people to get off zero. In addition to getting off zero, it is really critical. It is really important that you also begin taking self-custody of your sats and of your Bitcoin. This is because if you have Bitcoin on an exchange or you don't have proper self-custody, this is going to be a massive problem for you in the future, most likely. If Bitcoin starts having rapid periods of appreciation and there are rapid spikes in demand for Bitcoin education, and for Bitcoin advocates and advisors, it's going to be increasingly important that you have self-custody of those coins. So my message to you is, please consider getting that self-custody. Now, you can do that on your own. There are plenty of free tutorials online. There's plenty of great work like that. But if you want somebody to help you with self-custody, if you want somebody to help you take cold storage of your Bitcoin, of your Satoshis, if you want somebody to help you set up a multi-sig vault, to set up an estate plan, to set up a plan for you as a person, an individual, as a business owner, as a charity, whatever the case, I work at the Bitcoin Advisor, and I'm happy to say that I really enjoy it. I love working with my clients. My job is literally to help people buy Bitcoin and secure it properly for years, decades, and generations to come. So if you want to learn about my services at the Bitcoin Advisor and what we do, you should click the link in the description. Here you can read a bit about what I do. You can book a free consultation with me. You can book a free meeting with me. I'll send you lots of free complimentary paperwork explaining how multi-sig vaults work, cold storage, giving you all the education you need. Everything's fully open source. What we do, our main goal is education, helping get coins off exchanges, and people be able to not lose sleep at night when they buy and secure their Bitcoin. So you can feel free to book a meeting with me. The first one is free and complimentary, just to figure out what your priorities are and get that adjusted. But if that's something that could be used to you, I really highly encourage you to take self-custody, whether that's with me or not. Please just do it. But for the many of you that probably will eventually want a multi-sig collaborative custody vault, the Bitcoin Advisor could be the place to go. And so click the link in the description, check that out. Really appreciate your time.